I'm no expert, but I'm going to share some secrets and tips as to talk about how I do this. I have a life, you know. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. I wanted to come on today and do a chatty video about how do I read so much, why do I read so much, how do I read so fast, why do I read all kinds of books at the same time. So, why am I doing this? Because in the past few months, I have set up my reading in my Google Calendar, and what I do is I will color code each book a different color, and I will assign each book different days of the month and different lengths of time for how long I think I need to read it. I'm going to insert a picture of my calendar here, and all of those colored lines are which book and which week and how many days. And then the last few months and going through June and July probably, I will continue to use my calendar system. Let me address a few questions. And why am I even bothering to do this? Because in real life, I get so many questions, especially from my book group friends and my family. Okay, here's the first one. How do you read so much? I didn't always read this way. I didn't always read multiple books at once. I was for many years a monogamous reader, and Booktube changed me. And I think I've heard that from so many other booktubers, especially new ones who are just starting to read multiple books at a time. I never read this way before, but what it has done is it has taught me how to read faster, how to compartmentalize, how to do this successfully using different tips and tricks, and I'm going to share those. Let's see. There have been times when I've had like 8 or 9 currently reading books on my Goodreads list, and I've been reading all of them. That's uncomfortable for me. That's too many. And Sean, if you're watching, your schedule would make me crazy. I don't know how you do it. But Sean the Book Maniac has talked about this a lot, and he's usually has a very vast list of currently reading. How do I do it? I most of the time have books in different formats. So let me just give you an example. I talked about what I'm reading in my weekly wrap-up on last Saturday. And here's what I'm doing. I'm reading, and by the time this video goes up, I may be already done with this book, but I'm reading Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kolker. I own this book, even though it's an ex-library book, so this is actually mine. I am reading this for the Booktube Prize, so I'm not going to say anything about how I feel about the book, but this is a book I'm reading in physical form. It's a hardcover, which one of the benefits of a hardcover is its heft, which I actually like, but the print is bigger. So to me, that makes it easier to read. And if it's easier to read, I can read it faster. And so this is my physical copy. This makes me laugh because this is old school CDs that I'm listening to an audiobook in the car. It's Barack Obama's A Promised Land, also reading it for the Booktube Prize. And so I always have an audiobook going in the car. This is mine probably for the month of June or however many weeks the library will let me keep it. I do also have it in hard copy that I own. So if I can't keep the audio for long enough to finish it, I'll turn to the hard copy. So those are 2 forms so far. I've got my hard copy book and I've got my audiobook. I also read on my Kindle. And what I do is I have the Kindle app on my phone, as well as this is a Paperwhite, which I prefer. And what I typically do is I have a book that I have on my Kindle that I'm always currently reading that I have access to at work. I go into the office like 9 to 2 most days, and then I work the rest of my hours at home. So I do have in-office time. And what I've done is If I have to go to the ladies' room a couple times a day, I'll bring my phone with me. And I don't talk on the phone, but I read my book while I'm in the ladies' room. I finished Inferno by Catherine Cho for the Booktube Prize. A lot of it at work. And because it's on my Kindle, I can carry this around the house. I can put it on the counter in the kitchen. I can read a page or two while I'm cooking dinner. Or if I'm at my desk at home working and I have downtime, my Kindle is open. I can read a few pages here and there. So those are my 3 formats that I read in. Another way that I can have so many going at once is typically most, if not all of the books are wildly different topics. Because if I'm reading 2 novels that are similar, I'm going to get them mixed up. So, and it also helps that if I schedule, I'm going to read this book on Tuesday, and I'm going to read these 2 books on Wednesday, not the entire books, just pieces of them. If I schedule that out, especially if I do it visually on my calendar, I can read, for whatever reason, I can read more that way. And I don't know if what kind of psychological thing is that? I don't know. Why do I read so many books at once? I enjoy it. I've learned how to, like I said, compartmentalize. And I just like it. I like the variety. I like the fact that there will usually be a couple books that rise to the top of the ones I'm most gravitating towards, and I'll usually finish those sooner. And then I'll have a rotation where the ones I'm currently reading will go up to the top, and I might pick up another new book that I'll add to the list. And I find that I can read more and I can juggle more. Is the point of reading so many to get a quantity? Absolutely not. But I read every day, and I love to read. I love books, and so I love always having something to go to everywhere I am. Listening to an audiobook in the car on my way to work. There's 50 minutes of time that I can't read a physical book, but I can listen to that for 50 minutes a day. I have a Kindle, so my phone can be in my pocket. I could be going to grab a soda in the cafeteria at work and read 5 pages. And I can come home and relax even before dinner or after dinner or whatever, and sit on the couch and read my book for an hour, hour and a half, maybe longer if I choose to. And so I get so much reading done in every day. So that's what I'm reading, how I do it. How do I read so many books? Yeah. Why do I do it? Because I love it. How do you keep everything straight? I get that question a lot. And I get the statement, I could never do that because I would get everything mixed up. You really don't. Because like I said, if you make sure all of the topics are wildly different, nonfiction versus fiction, you could have so many different fiction genres, fantasy, romance, contemporary fiction. You could have literary fiction, historical fiction. They could be completely different time periods. You could have a contemporary novel and a Victorian novel. So you learn how to compartmentalize in your head and in your reading style. You learn what is possible for you, and so many of these things are learned skills. Another question I get, how fast do you read? I'm a fast reader. And depending on the type of book, nonfiction for me is always much easier to read quickly. I spent years in seminary, in grad school, and you learn fast what is the most important thing to read and which words can you just cut out of the paragraph quickly, because there's so much reading. So nonfiction is much easier for me to read quickly. There are definite types of words that I don't need to make my eye go to. And the language in nonfiction is very different than fiction. Fiction is artistry, and especially if you're reading literary fiction, sometimes there's experimentalism going on, and there's, if you're reading fantasy, there's made-up worlds and world building. So there's a lot of artistic technique that goes into fictional language. That's not the case with nonfiction, and even with narrative nonfiction, some narrative nonfiction has been exceptionally creative, but it's still different than fiction reading. So those go very quickly. The couple of books that I finished already for the BookTube Prize were very short. One of them was less than 200 pages. The other one was just over 200 pages. And a 200-page nonfiction book I can read in a day and a half. And I still retain, because that's the next thing. Well, how do you retain everything? You do. And again, there are blocks of text in a nonfiction book you don't need to retain. I read every word, but I don't have to process every word. So you learn the skill of what's important and how you retain it and how you comprehend it. It really does work. It really does. What else? Oh, I DNF'd a couple of books. That's another thing is if you're not liking a book, don't keep reading it. When I don't like a book, it makes me slower as a reader. It's like, oh, I don't want to have to go to that book again. DNF the damn book, because if you're not liking it, what's the point of spending time on it? All the time you're spending on a book that you don't like, that's slowing you down and is bogging you down, it's time wasted that you can devote toward another book that you love. And when you're reading a book you don't like and it is slowing you down, it gets you in a rut. It gets you in a funk for reading. And it's going to slow you down when you pick up the next book, even if you like it. If you love it, you have to ramp back up to your normal reading speed to get back in the groove. And it's just like it's walking through mud. And DNF the damn book. Don't keep reading something you don't like. What did I DNF? I DNF'd What Happened by Hillary Rodham Clinton. I was actually listening to this in the car, and I have the hard copy. I got to halfway through the book, and I decided, you know what? I'm already halfway through, and this is not a real short book. And she had yet to start talking about what happened in the election, the 2016 presidential election against Donald Trump. If I'm halfway through the book, I'm already hoping I'll find out what happened, or at least, a piece of what happened, so then the second half of the book will give me the details and her thoughts about that. I was also listening to the audio, and she's a very robotic reader. It was not pleasant to listen to her read her own book. So I decided to DNF that. I might go back to the hard copy down the road. I don't know, maybe not, we'll see. I also DNF'd another audiobook, Rebecca Solnit's The Mother of All Questions. I was actually enjoying that, but I DNF'd it in order to put this in the car. And so that's one that I liked, and I might go back to that at a future time. Those are feminist essays from Rebecca Solnit. There was 2 books that I had on my schedule for the George Eliot Read-Along 2021. And I have given myself permission to put them on hold. These are both biographies, and what the group and I decided was the biographies were spoiling the novels. So I haven't read all of George Eliot's novels, that's the point of this read-along, but the biographies were giving plot points of the novels, and I didn't want to be spoiled. I don't want to know what happens in Mill on the Floss, I haven't read it yet. And I don't want to know what happens in Romola, I haven't read that either. So this one I gave myself permission to put on hold, George Eliot, Voice of a Century by Frederick R. Carl. I was liking this book. It's very dense. There's a lot of detail. It's not an easy read. And he's very big into the plots of the novels and how they relate to George Eliot's real life. So I'm going to come back to this after I'm done with the novels. I really will come back to that. And the same with this one, George Eliot, The Last Victorian by Catherine Hughes. Alba from Seriella is in the George Eliot read-along, and she started reading this, and she's like, just want to let you all know, lots of spoilers for the novels in this book. And so, I collectively, with the group, thought, let's put a hold on the biographies, because I don't want to be spoiled, and I want everybody else to enjoy the novels, because those in the read-along, those are the most popular. Those are the ones we are most looking forward to reading. So this one is also going on hold until after I've read all the novels. And one of the big mental gymnastics that I've done is I've given myself permission to let things go. Reading is a hobby. Reading is a passion. But it is not something that somebody is looking over my shoulder giving me obligations for. Another thing I did, was I put off a buddy read. Heidi from My Reading Life and I were going to read The Feather Thief in June, this month. And with the schedule that I've posted earlier, I felt I can't do it. I need to weed out my schedule. And I have done that so far with the George Eliot book and the DNFs I had. And now it's like, I can see the light. So I said to Heidi, can we please push out The Feather Thief? And she laughed and she's like, oh, bless your heart. I'm so glad that you said that. So if you are a booktuber, or if you are a viewer or a commenter who takes part in buddy reads, if you can't do something, say something. Because again, this is not a school assignment, and no one's going to yell at you or get mad at you if you say, I can't do this, I'm sorry, I've overscheduled myself. Would you mind if we push this out? I've DNF'd books on buddy reads, and I've been apologetic, but ultimately, if I don't like a book, I'm going to talk to my buddy reader and say, I'm going to be a miserable reviewer if I continue to read this. I'm not going to finish. Sean and I have done that a couple of times. There are other books that I finished and hate read in order to talk about them. Barbara Kingsolver's Unsheltered. So, yeah. And along with buddy reads, if we're scheduled for a certain time period and I need to push it out, I say something. Or I've ended up reading books so fast that I've said, I've already finished this, so where is everybody? And when should we talk about this? And I've done that too. So that's how I do what I do. I have a full-time job. I'm married. I have a school-age child who has challenges, and I've got a life. I don't read full-time because I'm not Steve Donahue. So how do I do all this? All those things are how I do all this. So in August, I've got another little book challenge coming up that is going to be super fun, because August is wide open for me. And so that's a teaser. I hope you would enjoy it too when I show it to you. That's it for me for this chat for this week. And write me a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. Hope you're having a good week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.